Have you ever noticed that the loudest people in the room are rarely the most successful? It turns out, telling people your goals before you achieve them actually tricks your brain into thinking you've already won, and it destroys your motivation to finish. Today, we're sharing the powerful story of Milo, a small mouse who learned this lesson the hard way after a silent enemy stole everything from him. Watch until the very end, because the final rule Milo discovers will completely change the way you chase your dreams forever. Let's begin. The power of silence, the tale of Milo and the seed of action. Chapter 1, The Loud Declaration. One crisp morning, a small mouse named Milo ran through the whispering forest. His eyes were wide with excitement, and his heart beat fast with a grand idea. He could not contain his joy. Leaping onto a mossy log, he shouted to the wind, "I will build the biggest food storage in the entire forest before winter arrives." Every animal nearby stopped to look. Milo did not stop there. He ran down the path, repeating his grand plan to anyone who would listen. "I have a great plan," he told the bushes and the trees. "I will collect more food than anyone else. This winter will be my best season ever." The rabbit heard his boast. The squirrel heard it from her branch. The birds heard it in the sky, and even a lazy black crow sitting high on an old oak tree listened with sharp eyes. Everyone smiled at the little mouse. They clapped their paws and congratulated him. Milo loved the attention. It felt warm, like summer sunshine. The more the animals praised him, the more he talked about his future plans. He spent hours standing in the clearings, describing the massive piles of sweet nuts and golden seeds he would soon possess. But while he spent his hours talking, his hands remained empty. Chapter 2, The Trap of Praise. Days quickly passed. Every morning, Milo woke up and immediately announced new, loftier goals to the forest. "I have found the absolute perfect place for my storage cave," he bragged to a group of deer. "I will fill it to the roof. I am going to become the most prepared, most successful animal in this forest." "Wow, Milo," the animals would say, nodding in admiration. "That is truly impressive." Each compliment made Milo feel incredibly successful. In his mind, he could already see the full storage room. He felt the pride of a hard worker, even though he had not actually gathered a single nut. The praise felt so real that his mind believed the work was already finished. One warm afternoon, Milo met an old, wise turtle resting near a cool stream. The turtle stayed perfectly quiet, listening patiently while Milo explained all the grand achievements he had planned for himself. When Milo finally stopped to catch his breath, the old turtle smiled gently and asked a simple question. "Have you already built this great storage?" "No," Milo replied, blinking. "Have you collected enough food to fill it?" the turtle asked. "Not yet," Milo said, shifting his weight. "Then tell me, young friend, why are you celebrating?" Milo laughed, shaking his head. "I am not celebrating. I am just sharing my plans with my neighbors." The old turtle slowly shook his head, his wise eyes full of worry. "Be very careful, Milo. Sometimes, talking about success feels so good that your mind tricks you. It makes you feel like you have already won, and then you stop working for it." Milo thought the turtle was just being old and negative. He quickly thanked him and ran away, eager to find someone else who would praise his grand vision. Chapter 3, The Silent Thieves. The next day, Milo talked even more. He told the chipmunks, the foxes, and the badgers about his daily plans. But soon, something unexpected and dangerous began to happen. The lazy crow had been watching Milo closely. Whenever Milo walked through the woods and discovered a rich, hidden patch of berry bushes or a fallen walnut tree, he couldn't keep it a secret. He would immediately tell his friends about the great spot he had found. The crow, listening from above, would secretly fly to that exact spot first. He would eat his fill and take the best pieces of food away. Soon, a few other lazy animals noticed this trick and began doing the same thing. Milo was sharing all his valuable secrets without even realizing it. He was giving away his map to success before he could even walk the path. Weeks rolled by like clouds in the sky, and the air turned chilly. One evening, Milo finally walked into his storage cave to admire his progress. He struck a match and looked around. The cave was almost completely empty. Only a few dry leaves and 3 wrinkled acorns lay on the cold dirt floor. Winter was knocking on the door, and for the first time, Milo felt a sharp stab of panic in his chest. "How can this be?" he whispered to himself, his voice trembling. "I have been working so hard for weeks." But when he sat down and looked honestly at his days, the truth became painfully clear. He had not been working. He had been talking about working. He spent his mornings describing his future labor, his afternoons enjoying the praise of his future success, and his evenings resting from the exhaustion of talking. He had loved the idea of success, but he had ignored the actual labor. Chapter 4. The Secret Under the Soil. That night, Milo sat alone by the dark, rushing stream, feeling deeply ashamed. The old turtle appeared from the shadows, stepping softly onto the pebbles. "You look worried, little one," the turtle said softly. "I don't understand," Milo cried, a tear rolling down his nose. "I had such a great plan. Why did I fail?" The turtle nodded wisely. "A plan is only a seed, Milo. The work you do in silence is the water and sun that makes it grow." Milo lowered his head. "I thought sharing my big plans would motivate me to move faster." "Sometimes it does," replied the turtle. "But more often, people enjoy the applause before they have earned it. When you receive praise early, your mind stops feeling the hunger to actually do the hard work. You satisfied your hunger with empty words." The little mouse stayed silent for a very long time. Deep down in his heart, he knew the turtle was completely right. The next morning, Milo made a firm, unbreakable decision. He would stop announcing his goals to the world. There would be no more grand speeches. No more beautiful promises. No more showing off his future success. From that day forward, he would let his actions speak for him. Later that day, when the rabbit passed by and asked what grand thing he was planning next, Milo simply smiled, kept his head down, and said, "Just working. Nothing more." Chapter 5. The Fruits of Silence. Days turned into weeks, and the forest grew colder. Milo began waking up long before sunrise, while the stars were still bright in the sky. He searched the deep forest floors for hidden seeds. He carried heavy walnuts on his back, one by one. He organized his storage room with careful, quiet discipline. Whenever he discovered a secret supply of fresh food, he kept it entirely to himself. He focused entirely on the task at hand, completely forgetting about the need for attention. Then, something strange and wonderful happened. Without the constant energy spent on talking, Milo found he had much more physical strength. Without trying to impress his neighbors, he stayed focused for hours longer. Without seeking approval from others, he worked harder than he ever thought possible. Slowly, step by step, his storage cave began to fill up to the ceiling with rich, life-saving food. Meanwhile, the lazy crow became confused and frustrated. He noticed that Milo was no longer talking. The crow followed the mouse one morning, but Milo was alert and quietly lost him in the thick brush. Another day, the crow tried to spy on him again, but Milo remained silent and private. For months, the crow had depended on Milo's loud mouth to find his meals. Now, there was nothing left to steal. Chapter 6. The True Proof of Success. Winter finally arrived with a fierce roar. Freezing winds cut through the bare branches, and heavy white snow covered the earth. Food became incredibly scarce. Many animals in the forest began to suffer and go hungry because they had not prepared. One snowy morning, the rabbit came knocking on Milo's door, shivering from the cold. When Milo opened the door and invited him inside, the rabbit's eyes became wide with absolute shock. The storage cave was a masterpiece. There were long, neat rows of golden seeds, high piles of heavy nuts, and dried berries packed safely in the corners. There was more than enough food to survive the longest winter. "How did you do all this in secret?" asked the rabbit in amazement. Milo smiled warmly, handed his friend a hazelnut, and said simply, "I stopped talking and I started working. Soon, the news of Milo's beautiful, full cave spread like wildfire across the frozen forest. All the animals wanted to know his great secret. But this time, Milo did not brag. He did not boast. He simply shared the wisdom he had paid so dearly to learn. One quiet evening, a group of young animals gathered around Milo's warm fireplace. A young squirrel looked up at him and asked, "Milo, how did you become so successful after such a bad start?" Milo thought for a quiet moment, looking at the glowing embers of the fire. "Success became much easier," he said softly, "when I stopped announcing every single step of my journey." The young animals listened with absolute silence. "When I told everyone my grand plans," Milo explained, "I felt important. I enjoyed the quick attention. But I learned that attention is not progress. It is just noise." The young squirrel nodded, understanding. Another little animal asked, "So, does that mean we should never tell anyone our goals?" Milo smiled gently. "Not exactly. Sometimes, sharing your heart with a trusted friend or a wise mentor can help keep you on the right path. But broadcasting your dreams to the entire world too early becomes a dangerous trap. You start loving the applause more than the actual effort." The room grew peaceful and quiet as the lessons sank into their hearts. Milo looked around at the young faces. "I learned that deep dreams grow best in complete silence. They are just like seeds buried deep under the rich soil. You do not dig them up every single day just to show everyone your progress. If you do, they will die. Instead, you protect them. You water them in private. You work on them every day. And then, when the time is right, the world will see the results." Outside the window, hidden in the softly falling snow, the old turtle listened to Milo's words and smiled with deep pride. Chapter 7. The Transformed Forest. As the winter weeks dragged on, many animals remembered the little mouse's powerful lesson. A great change began to wash over the forest. Some animals stopped talking about becoming strong and healthy and quietly started training their bodies. Some stopped boasting about the books they would write or the things they would learn and quietly sat down to study. Others stopped talking about the grand homes they would build and picked up their tools to start creating. Slowly, the entire culture of the forest shifted. There was more action and far less talking. There was deep, quiet discipline and much less showing off. Because of this, life improved for everyone. One crisp afternoon, near the very end of winter, Milo met the lazy crow near the edge of the clearing. The crow looked thin, tired, and deeply disappointed. "You changed, Mouse," the crow croaked, looking at Milo's strong, healthy form. Milo laughed softly. "Yes, my friend. I did." "You used to tell everyone everything," the crow grumbled. "I know," Milo replied. "What happened to you?" Milo looked out over the beautiful, snow-covered trees, feeling a deep sense of peace. "I realized something incredibly important." "And what is that?" asked the crow. Milo looked the crow in the eye and said, "People should hear about your success from your final results, never from your early promises." The crow had no answer. He lowered his wings and flew away. For the first time in his life, the crow understood a profound truth. The strongest workers are almost always the quietest, and the loudest voices are rarely the most successful. Those who focus entirely on real action will always reach their destination faster than those who waste their breath announcing the trip. As the winter snows finally melted away and the bright green leaves of spring returned, Milo looked out at his home with a heart full of deep gratitude. The little mouse who had once loved the empty noise of praise had transformed into a master of quiet discipline. And that single, powerful shift had changed his entire life forever. Final thoughts. The story of Milo reminds us of a truth. We often forget in a world full of social media posts, status updates, and constant announcements. Plans are valuable, but actions are priceless. Many of us lose our creative energy by talking too much about what we intend to do. We announce our dreams, our goals, and our future milestones before we have actually put in the work. We collect the applause early, and then our focus fades. The biggest lesson from Milo's journey is this. Work in complete silence, stay deeply consistent, and let your results introduce you. The less you look around for approval from others, the more energy you will have to focus on what truly matters. From today, let your discipline be your voice.